So happy to have you here. How are you doing? Do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Magdalena. I am a sports videographer, and I currently work as the coordinator of content and communications for Canada Basketball.
That's great. What is your earliest memory of basketball?
I think my earliest memory of basketball is definitely just watching Raptors games with my dad, like on the TV when I was little, like back in like DeRozan and Kyle Lowry days. I didn't know much about basketball, but it was a sport that my dad liked to watch and show, so I liked to watch it too.
Okay. So then, how did you first find yourself behind the lens in a basketball space?
So when I started university, I was in the media production program, and I always thought that I wanted to get into film and be like a cinematographer. But I really wanted to try new things when I was first starting school. So I applied to be a sports videographer for our athletics department, and I got the job. I never shot sports before, but I liked to do video work and I liked to edit a lot, and so I guess I thought it was a good fit and I thought it could be fun. And then so through there I started to work for our various varsity teams, so I did like soccer, basketball, hockey, and volleyball, but then basketball was kind of like the one that I tended to gravitate towards a little bit more.
Obviously, it's somewhat taxing in terms of time, in terms of your mental and things like that. What would you say were some of like the struggles that you faced, or like mental burdens that you faced, especially being a woman in the field?
The biggest thing is a lot of imposter syndrome, for sure. Like, I think I'm very used to walking into spaces, creative spaces especially, and being the only woman there. And sometimes it's a thought of like, oh wow, I'm the only girl in the room, and like it feels a little bit empowering. But then on the other hand, it's like, oh, I'm the only girl in the room, and it can be a little bit hindering. And so I think I find myself constantly sort of questioning, like, if I'm meant to be here, if I'm good enough to be here. And like, even when I succeed or achieve the goals that I want to achieve, it's hard for me sometimes to not question how I got there and if I just got lucky or if I'm actually meant to be here. I've gotten better on fixing my mindset as time went on, but I think imposter syndrome is the biggest one. And I think also I've always been a very high, like, overachieving person, and I set a lot of goals for myself, and so I think I put a lot of pressure on myself to do whatever I can to achieve those goals, and so that can sometimes be, I guess, a little bit tiring on my end because I'm just putting so much of myself into everything, and I'm over-exhausting myself sometimes just to be able to achieve a goal. So those are probably like the two biggest ones that I think I deal with.
Okay, that makes sense. So then, when you're prepping yourself mentally before you head out, what's your motto? What is a sentence that you stick by at all moments?
I feel like there's two different ones. So the first one, there's this Greek word that I have tattooed on me, called meraki, and it basically means to put a piece of yourself into everything you do creatively. So I think I kind of, whenever I'm entering a new shoot or I'm going to a game or whatever the case may be, I always kind of remind myself to, through whatever I'm creating, just leave a piece of myself in it, my personality, my creative vision, whatever the case may be. Like, I just want to be able to kind of imprint myself into the work that I create. So I tell myself that a lot. And I think also just reminding myself that, like, I'm very blessed to be in my position, and like I have worked so hard to get to that point, but not everybody is able to have these experiences, get this sort of access to these games or to these moments. And so definitely kind of like reminding myself about how grateful I am to be there, and just remembering that as much as it gets tough, this is an incredible spot to be in and to like really take it in and like soak it in.
So in terms of your work, what kind of pressure do you think you put upon yourself?
I think I do a lot of comparison, which I know isn't like the most healthiest thing to do, but I think when you're working in sports, especially in the creative space, like I follow so many other creatives, or I'm constantly seeing like work that I want to create. And I think, especially when I'm in like creative ruts, it's very easy for me to look at what other people are creating and immediately think like, oh, well, my stuff doesn't look like that, or I'm not able to do this, or like theirs is so much better than mine. And so that's where the pressure sort of comes in, is like, I think sometimes when I go into games or when I'm creating videos or whatever the case may be, I'm going into it with the mindset of like trying to match what they're doing instead of creating something that I am proud of, and like that kind of achieves the level of success that I see for myself.
Okay, I see what you mean. And what do you think you've done over the years, as you know your work has evolved, to kind of get rid of that mentality and just be present?
Yeah, it still happens obviously from time to time, but I think in general, just reminding myself that like my creative vision is my creative vision, the same way that their creative vision is their creative vision. Everybody's going to see things differently. Everyone has different eyes, different lenses on the things that they're seeing in front of them and how they choose to tell those stories. And so I think just reminding myself that at the end of the day, like as long as I'm creating content that I'm very proud of and that I think tells the story that I'm trying to tell successfully, then that's all that matters.
That makes a lot of sense. Now we're going to talk about what it feels like when you're shooting, what your thought process is. Can you describe what a perfect moment feels like to you? So whether it's a game, what are the elements that just make you know, okay, I'm about to get a great, creation out of this?
Yeah, I think my absolute favorite moment, especially working in basketball, is just when those really big plays happen that gets both the players, the bench, like, and the entire audience into it, and like the fans. It's just like the most like hype environment you could possibly be in. And I think being able to capture that, I think the biggest thing for me through everything that I create is like I try to evoke as much emotion as possible. Like I try to show as much emotion in the content that I create so that everyone watching it feels that emotion. And so I think when those moments happen, not only is it honestly just exhilarating to be a part of, like as the person shooting it, I already know that like when I turn it into a video, for example, people at home who weren't able to experience the environment firsthand are still going to get to be able to experience the environment through the video that I put out. And so whenever those moments happen, I just get like super excited because it's fun to be a part of, and then like you're getting really great emotion from everyone involved.
100%. So then I guess my question would be, earlier you mentioned just putting parts of yourself into your work. How do you let your creativity show through everything that you're putting out?
Yeah, I think again, like with that whole sort of like emotion thing in mind, I've always been someone that loves storytelling. Like I grew up as a dancer, so I was on stage, and like when you're doing competitive dance, you're telling stories through every single choreography that you're doing. And then even after dance, I transitioned into theater. So same thing, I'm acting and I'm singing and I'm dancing, and it's all about telling a story and performing it to an audience. And so I think I definitely kept a lot of those qualities now through my work. And so I think I rely on music a lot, for example, like music and emotion in the pieces that I create, like video-wise especially. So what kind of songs can I choose to really enhance the emotion that's already being felt in the video? Can I like slow down certain moments to put emphasis on them, or like can I really get like a nice close-up of emotion that a player is feeling, for example? And so I think focusing on building a really strong story, even if it's like a super quick, like 30-second video, I think that's how I tend to leave my mark on like the videos that I create. Okay.
Speaking of music, do you have like your own like game day playlist? Because I know you're not on a court, but you're still there, and you have to also be one with the game just as much as the players are. So
yeah.
Do you I guess my question is, do you choose your songs before? Do you choose them after? Does it change? And also when you're getting into the flow of your day and whatever, how much does music matter?
Yeah. In terms of picking my music for the videos that I create, sometimes I go into it already with a song in mind. And so as I'm shooting, I'm like picturing how I'm thinking to edit certain shots to the song that I have in mind. So sometimes I'll go into that. Other times I kind of just like, sometimes you might get into a situation where like the game ended up going the complete opposite direction how you thought it was going to. So then sometimes I'll come back and look at the footage and I'll think, okay, like what's the perfect tone for this? So like if I'm trying to make a more slow motion, like cinematic piece, I'll pick like maybe a softer sound, whereas if I'm trying to go for more hype, I'll look for music like that. So it kind of depends. Honestly, I do kind of just like show up, but I think the music that plays in the environment that I'm in helps me feel more into it. Like, every single basketball game you go to, for example, is going to have like their in-arena playlist, warm-up playlist, whatever the case may be. And so I think that kind of helps me like get more into the vibe because I'm seeing the players get comfortable, I'm seeing the fans get comfortable, and then I also feel comfortable.
Okay, makes sense. What is a moment that you filmed that has stuck with you that you look back at and you're like, this is insane, just having lived it, having shot it?
Yeah. I feel like there's a few with basketball specifically. I think the biggest one for my career for a long time was in my very first year of university. I think I probably was like 6 months into shooting sports, so I was pretty new to it still. And our school's women's basketball team, we were in the finals, UA finals, and we were losing the entire game by like 20 plus points. So it kind of felt like it was a done deal. And then within the last like 5 minutes, I think, of the fourth quarter, they came back and they won the game. So we won like the championship. And then we went on to win nationals after that too. And that all happened in my first year. Again, I was only shooting for like a few months. And so I think that was my first experience of like being in a game environment where like the crowd was getting like super excited and like there was so much emotion from the players in the court because everyone was crying and like it was like a really emotional thing. And that was the first moment where I was like, wow, like sports is really fun to like work in. Like I really enjoy being in this sort of environment, and like I was able to feel such a connection to the girls on the team. And so with everything I created after that, like I really wanted to be able to like kind of portray that emotion. And a video that I actually created as a recap for that game ended up going on to win Outstanding Promotional Video for the OUA Awards. So like that was a really good way to wrap up, I think, like my first year. And that kind of is what solidified for me, at least, like that sports kind of feels like where I meant to be. And then I guess the more recent one is a few months ago, I went out to Michigan to shoot Silas Swords, who is a player on our women's national team for Canada basketball. And that was my first like college NCAA basketball experience. And so just getting to be there and like getting to say that I was there and I got to actually shoot her and like shoot content of the arena and everything, because she plays for Michigan, which is like a super big school, was also an insane experience. I definitely had a lot of like, I can't believe I'm here moments. So yeah.
Okay. No, that's fun. We've talked about a lot of highs, but I want to move to the complete opposite. Being in the field, was there ever a time where you sat there and really just questioned your place and what did that really feel like? I know you talked about imposter syndrome earlier, but was there a specific moment maybe that happened that maybe made you question if you were supposed to be where you are?
Yeah. To be so candid, I feel like I get one every single year. Like at least once a year, I'll get into like a little bit of a route where I'm like questioning it. I think the most recent one that I can remember so strongly is like, honestly, just a few months ago, I was approaching like ending school. I'm graduating in a few weeks. And so I kind of realized, I'm like, did I pick the right career to go into? Like I just started to doubt so much because I was doing an internship, but then I realized like, okay, if this doesn't turn into anything, like what am I gonna do when I graduate? Because all I've done is like, I've worked for my school, obviously, and I've gotten other opportunities, but if nothing comes up, like, where am I gonna go? And then I kind of had that whole train of thought of like, okay, media is a tough industry to be a part of, especially sports media. Like, did I pick the right thing? Am I meant to be here? Have I just wasted the past 4 years of my life like doing this? And even though I knew deep down like I really, really love it and enjoy it, I think in the moment with all those kind of like graduation, like post-grad like stresses, it was really starting to weigh on me a little bit, and I started to kind of just second guess like everything that I had done. And it wasn't a nice feeling. Like obviously you never want to discredit the work that you've put in to get to where you are, but I really was just kind of like, oh, I don't know how I feel about where I'm at right now. Things luckily did turn around very soon after that, but I kind of got into like a little bit of a self-deprecating period of time very quickly.
I see what you mean. Do you feel like you would want, in the space, do you feel like you would want to hear more creatives talk about how, like what type of mental toll it takes on them? Because you're also putting in a bunch of hours, and that's not only at the game, but that's before and after editing, publishing, all those things. Do you think you want creatives to talk about it more?
Yeah, you end up working like 12 plus hours a day sometimes, and it can be very exhausting, and you feel like super burnt out at the end of the day. And this is not to put shame on like any athletes or anybody, but as the moment the game ends, all of a sudden it's like, oh, can I get those pictures, or can I get the video, or can I get whatever it is? And it's like, obviously you want to get, like, you're creating the content for them at the end of the day too. Like you want them to have stuff they're going to enjoy, but also it's like, I have so much to do, and like we just ended. And so I think like, that's why I'm saying from the outside looking at, I don't think people truly understand sometimes like how much work it takes. Because even like something as simple as putting together, like editing the photos, for example, still takes a certain amount of time. You can't just send it over to you like in the blink of an eye. And so I think creatives are always expected of so much and asked for so much, and I think sometimes people just don't realize how much mentally and physically it actually takes for them to be able to get to that point. So I definitely would like to see it at least recognized more from the people that work with creatives, especially.
Okay. What impact do you want your work to have on anyone who's coming across it, or anyone who's looking for inspiration?
I honestly just want to be the biggest inspiration for young girls who are trying to work in sports, especially work in sports behind the scenes. I think we've seen a really great increase in women in front of our cameras in sports, like broadcasters, journalists, and like it's been incredible. But I I think what I want people to recognize too is that there are so many women who work behind the scenes in sports and they just kind of go unnoticed. And so I don't want that fact to discourage younger girls from trying to get into it. And even in general, sports as a whole, as an industry, it can be very intimidating to try to get into in any facet, whether you're an athlete or a journalist or working in content or whatever the case may be. And so I think I really want to be able to be that positive role model for younger girls who are trying to get involved in sport media, and just being able to be like living proof for them that like you can start with little to no experience and still make it pretty far in your career, like with the right amount of work and effort and determination. And I think having a female role model is something that I really wish I was able to have when I first started. When I started, I had great role models, but they were all men. And so sometimes I wonder how my journey might have changed or been different had I had more women that I could have relied on. So I think, yeah, like when it's all said and done, I think I just want to be known as someone who made an impact for the women working in sport media in this country and in this city.
Okay. No, that's a great message. I feel like definitely a lot of people could use that. And I guess my final question is, what do you want to say to your younger, current, and future self? And they all get one sentence each.
Younger self, I think I would definitely say, you are meant to do big things in your life, and you might not know what those things are, but just have faith in the process and they will all come to light eventually. For my current self, I think I would say you deserve to be here. And as much as it seems like you don't sometimes, or you question if you do deserve to be here. And the sooner you can start to accept that and recognize that, the more you'll be able to just kind of take off with your career. And for my future self, I'm really excited to see what my future self does.
Okay.
How far I'm able to take it, the experiences I'm able to have, and the legacy I'm able to leave in Canada basketball as a whole. No,
that's great. Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming. Thank you for this discussion. And talk soon.